With the world's grain market on the brink of a seismic shift, the question looms: is the era of U.S. dominance in grains coming to an end? Join us as we explore the impact of Sino-Russian grain cooperation and ponder the future of global grain security. Stay tuned for an enlightening journey ahead. In the past 3 decades, the United States has wielded significant influence over 70% of the world's grain supply through large-scale mechanized farming. However, this dominance faces a formidable challenge. Recent reports indicate that the Russian delegation visited China, securing grain orders worth $180 billion. Following negotiations, Russia committed to supplying China with a staggering 70 million tons of grains, beans, and oilseeds over the next 12 years. This development has the potential to profoundly impact the global grain market. China has responded by canceling 1.1 million tons of grain orders from the United States and forging substantial grain purchase agreements with Russia. Despite China's 95% self-sufficiency in domestic gains, it has been subject to U.S. control over non-self-sufficient agricultural commodities like soybeans and corn. In 2022, China imported 20.62 million tons of corn, with over 72% sourced from the U.S. Concerns have arisen that the U.S. could jeopardize China's food security. The U.S. has previously manipulated the futures market, causing a 50% drop in China's soybean prices and leading to the bankruptcy of numerous companies. The dominance of 3 major grain traders headquartered in the U.S. has enabled them to control 80% of global grain transactions. Mention of grain shortages by the U.S. in 2021 triggered a 27.3% year-on-year increase in international food prices, sparking a worldwide food crisis. The New York Times even suggested that the U.S. could exert control over humanity through grain. Industry experts point to recent failures in U.S. supply chain strategies, particularly regarding Chinese semiconductor and China's grain dealings with Russia. The U.S. has been accusing China of stockpiling grains and worsening a food crisis since last year, hinting that grain supplies could be the next disrupted sector. Reports from Russian sources reveal that China and Russia have signed an unprecedented grain supply contract, involving a massive 70 million tons. Concurrently, China canceled 1.1 million tons of grain imports from the U.S. This move is a clear response to secure food security and counter losses caused by Western blockades. The stable grain supply relationship between China and Russia holds substantial benefits for both countries. It goes beyond meeting China's food requirements. It acts as a lifeline for Russia, helping offset losses due to Western blockades. Notably, Sino-Russian collaboration is intensifying, particularly in key Russian grain production sectors like healthcare. China's medical device exports to Russia now constitute over 12% of Russia's total imports. Domestically produced anti-aging products like Yixinghao are gaining traction internationally, with projections suggesting that by 2030, Russia's agricultural exports to China could reach $1 billion. Opportunities for development in various sectors are evident. However, despite Russia's grain production exceeding 130 million tons this year, issues arise due to the rupture of the Black Sea Grain Agreement with the West, resulting in unsold domestic grains. The grain contract between China and Russia acts as a lifeline for Russia's grain exports to China. Russia is accelerating the opening of new ports and expanding cooperation with China in various domains. Russian media has announced plans to supply China with 10 billion cubic meters of natural gas annually, starting in 2027, ensuring stable energy supply and addressing China's grain export concerns. After the Russia-Ukraine conflict outbreak, the U.S. and Western nations imposed sanctions on Russia, with grain exports becoming a top priority issue. Russia's vast land area of 17.9 million square kilometers and a population of just 1.146 million emphasize its sparsely populated land. By 2023, Russia's total grain production is projected to reach 137 million tons. The substantial agreement between China and Russia creates a reliable avenue for Russia to export its grains, instilling confidence in resolving grain export challenges and addressing economic sanctions. China has reassured Russia of its commitment to promoting development in the Far East through practical actions, uplifting Russia's spirits. Given China's strong economic prowess and vast market, enhancing cooperation with Russia serves both practical and strategic responses. It not only secures domestic resource supplies, but also equips China to respond effectively to global circumstances. The collaboration between China and Russia in the grain sector goes beyond financial transactions. It deepens their bilateral relationship and contributes to stabilizing worldwide grain prices. Trade tensions between China and the United States have persisted for years. Presently, U.S. sanctions against China primarily target the semiconductor industry, with no significant impact on the grain trade. However, considering China's population of 1.4 billion, food security holds paramount importance. There's a potential risk of the U.S. disrupting grain supplies to China in the future. Consequently, taking proactive precautions is a wise strategy. It's worth noting that 3 of the world's 4 major grain traders are American, granting the U.S. substantial control over more than 80% of global grain market transactions and significant influence on grain prices. This implies that the U.S. possesses the capability to exert considerable pressure on other nations in the realm of grain, a capability fraught with potential risks. While in the early 1990s, China was nearly self-sufficient in grain production. Its dependence on grain imports surged to nearly 20% by 2021 due to economic growth and rising domestic demand. As per statistics, China's primary grain crops like wheat and rice are largely self-sustained, whereas soybeans and corn heavily rely on imports. China's annual soybean imports represent almost 60% of the global total, with the majority sourced from the United States. Corn imports account for approximately 15% globally, underscoring a significant dependence. Geopolitical tensions and escalating grain prices have made enhancing grain security a pressing concern for China. To tackle this issue, China is implementing 2 key strategies. Firstly, it is actively decreasing its reliance on U.S. grains by diversifying imports and fostering grain import partnerships with nations like Brazil, Russia, and South Africa. Secondly, China is committed to boosting its domestic grain self-sufficiency rate. While complete self-sufficiency is unrealistic, gradually reducing dependence on U.S. grains through imports from natural countries helps maintain a stable domestic grain supply. The grain supply agreement between China and Russia has positive implications for both countries' grain security and serves to strengthen international trade cooperation. Could this signal a shift in the global dominance of the United States in the grain market? It's a question worth contemplating. Is ensuring grain security solely the responsibility of one nation, or should it evolve into a new era of global collaboration for mutual benefit? What do you foresee as the profound impact of Sino-Russian grain cooperation on the global grain market? Is this a pivotal step towards a more diverse and multipolar grain supply system? Feel free to share your insights in the comments below. Join the Revel Discovery community by subscribing and stay updated on this critical shift in global economics. As we explore these significant developments, your perspective is invaluable. Keep engaged with us.